The men's 400 meter dash at the World Indoor Meet was supposed to be pretty predictable because Christopher Morales Williams of Canada was going to be on the starting line. Last year, while he was competing in college, he technically broke the world record indoors for the 400. I say technically because there was some type of a ratification issue, but the time still stands. And now that he's an Olympian and has turned professional, basic logic would tell you that he wasn't just supposed to win this year. It was almost a foregone conclusion, though I admit that I did not make it my business to watch the men's 400 meter dash live when it went off, specifically talking about the finals. Because yeah, I looked at the prelims and I thought I knew how everything was going to play out. But boy was I wrong. Because when the final race was over, Team USA didn't just win the event. They swept the indoor 400, going 1, 2, and 3. And the reason why historically that has never happened is because at the World Indoor Championship meet, you're not supposed to have more than 2 individual athletes actually show up for your nation. I'm not making this up. The actual rules are that 2 people get to qualify. America technically hacked the system this year because we had 1 athlete who didn't qualify at the USA meet, but was talented enough to get a wildcard spot by going out there on the World Indoor Tour and booking his tickets by himself. They were led by Christopher Bailey, who got the gold medal in the 400. Aside from Christopher Morales Williams, he was probably the favorite, because he's the only man who was on the starting line who actually showed up in the men's Olympic final for the 400 back in Paris for 2024. And behind him to get the silver medal was Brian Faust. But I'm not even gonna lie to you. There's very little I could say that you might remember about his career, but I'ma still take a flyer on it anyway. If you paid attention to the USA Indoor Meet last year, I'm talking 2024, he actually got the victory in the 400. And let me tell you, it was close all the way to the line. And the bronze medal went to Ja'Cory Patterson, who's probably more remembered for what he did as a Florida Gator in the NCAA, because he helped them win multiple national titles, and won the SEC Indoors in the 200 of all events. The same year that Matthew Bowling went on to win the NCAA Indoors in the 200 just 2 weeks later. Every single man that I just named does not have a major pro sponsor at this point in their track and field career. I'm not making this up. The 3 best 400 meter runners that we have in the entire world right now, at least indoors, are not sponsored. That's probably why you may not recognize them. And it's also why I overlooked them. So the real question is, how do we get to a track and field world where you can be that talented? Because let me tell you, these men did not pop out of nowhere. They're technically not belonging on my never supposed to be this fast list. By all intents and purposes, they were supposed to be this fast. And it starts to feel like almost nobody cares. And I probably shouldn't have to say this part, but I'ma say it anyway. If you consider that they run a men's 4x4 at the World Indoor Championship meet, what nation do you think ran away with the gold medal? Obviously it was America, and ironically, the 4th runner that they actually sent out there for that relay actually has a pro sponsor contract, Elijah Godwin with Adidas. So allow me to fill you in on how these 3 men became world champions indoors and track and field, even if nobody was really paying attention, and apparently nobody actually believed in them. At least not enough to open their checkbook and sign them, at least not yet. But if you're new here, I want to say thank you for even making it this far into the video. And I'm Coach Rob, the founder of SCArecruiting.com, where I rank the best track and field recruits across the entire nation. And if anything that I say actually connects with you, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe. But if I don't, just let me know in the comment section, because I try to read them all. In the case of Christopher Bailey, he did compete in the Paris final for the men's 400. But even after all that, he doesn't have a major professional sponsor, at least not up until this moment. But if you go all the way back to his college career, he actually has a very wild journey that led him to this point, because he started off at Mississippi Valley State in the SWAC conference, where in the beginning of his career, the first races he was running was in cross country. There's a whole lot that I could say about how that actually happened, because I coached cross country at the college level. So trust me, the times he was putting down, he was not really a distance runner. But there are times when you have programs in D1 who need to put somebody out there just so they can score points in a conference meet and he was one of those guys. That said, even after a cross-country season, he went second overall both indoors and outdoors in the SWAC conference for the 400 as a freshman. And it does make sense that he chose to transfer to Tennessee in the SEC after all that, where he only made one final in the men's 400 in that conference, because it's basically professional track and field over there. But he did run a whole bunch of 4x4s and eventually get a national championship medal. But the first time that I even noticed he was in the races was when he transferred from Tennessee over to Arkansas. That was when he made an NCAA indoor final in the 400, and also helped Arkansas to win a national championship in the 4x4 relay. And from that moment up until now, he's been running, I guess you would say, on the pro circuit. He was at the USA indoor meet in 2024 and finished third, which is, I guess this is as good a time as any to fill you in that the men who went 1, 2, and 3 in that meet are the same men I'm talking about right now. The only difference is that the order changed around between 2024 and 2025. Remember, for World Indoors, America's only supposed to get 2 individual slots for any event. Chris Bailey did not run in the men's 400 at the World Indoors, at least not in the open, but you should already know what happened after that. He made an Olympic final in the 400 and then came back indoors to dominate the entire world, once again without a legitimate pro sponsor. But the case of Brian Faust is a little bit different, because I already told you that in 2024, he won the USA Indoor Championship in the 400 meter dash, which, once again, I'm not really sure how many people actually noticed. If you go back to his college career, he started off winning the Big East 400 at Villanova as a freshman, and then transferred to Purdue in the Big Ten. He won a few conference medals, and then transferred to Kentucky in the SEC, where he never finished higher than 7th individually in that conference. But he was also an NCAA championship qualifier, because like I keep trying to say, it's basically pro track and field in that conference. So in 2024, he didn't just win the USA Indoor Championship. He represented the World Indoor Meet, even though things didn't really go all that well. And then this year, he came back to make Team USA again, and actually failed to do it, at least initially, at the USA Indoors for 2025. He actually got 4th behind Elijah Godwin. But Brian Faust was determined to make the World Indoor Meet. So he earned himself a wild card by going out there on the World Indoor Tour, running his final indoor race before the championship in Spain. And he won that event in the 400. That's how he booked his tickets, because Team USA was never supposed to have 3 men on the line for this meet. And it's probably never going to happen again if we're just being honest. Which brings me now to Jacory Patterson, who finished second at USA Indoor in the 400 back in 2024, and did the exact same thing again in 2025. Either way, it makes a whole lot of sense that when he got to World Indoors this year, he actually got a silver medal. When he was in college, he started off at Virginia Tech, where he went undefeated in the 400 for 2 straight years, both indoors and outdoors for the ACC. And on top of that, he still took care of business in the 200. But he chose to transfer to Florida, and you already know how that conference is. So winning an SEC title indoors in the 200 is a very big deal. Remember, he did it edging out Matthew Bowling, who a few weeks later wins an NCAA championship in that event. Like the other 2 men, this is now his 2nd year competing on the pro circuit. The sponsorship status of these 3 world champions is actually very relevant if you consider what Noah Lyles just said on the Beyond the Records podcast. He actively ran on the World Indoor Championship 4x4 for Team USA in 2024. So that means he was out there running with some of them. And Noah Lyles said himself that for the most part, track and field is still an amateur sport. If you don't really believe him, just look at the facts. He's not saying that the athletes are not high level. We know that they actually are. That's how you run fast enough to win a world championship in any event. The problem is not their talent, the problem is the infrastructure. Because you can be that good enough to win a USA Indoor Championship, good enough to even make an Olympic team, and still, you may not get a phone call, or at least one that actually follows through, for Nike, Adidas, Puma, or anybody else to put their name on you. Again, at least not yet. And you can't even really argue that these men were never supposed to be this fast, because all of them were recruited to power conference programs multiple times in their college career. And the only way you do that is if you were very fast before you got there. So although Christopher Morales Williams might still technically be a world record holder indoors, he is not the world champion. Not even close. Because no matter which way you look at it, Team USA just made history. They came back with 3 medals in an event that set up the rules to keep you from ever even having that opportunity. And they also went on to prove that the lanes on a track really do not care at all who your sponsor actually is. Because one thing remains to be true, that the fastest men in the race will be the ones who get the medals, even if it seems like nobody was really paying attention. In the sport of track and field, race day is honestly the easy part, because all of the real work gets put in when nobody is watching. When you wear every day is training day gear, you can let the whole world know that your success in competition is not an accident. Order yours at scarecruiting.com/shop or use the link in the description below, and it always comes with free shipping. It's a huge support to me and this channel, so I can continue to make you more content like this. And remember, it is always greatly appreciated if you would please like and subscribe.